Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is Monday, the 27th of July, 2020. My name's Carey Holzman. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Welcome in to all my friends in blue. And we got a bunch of people already chomping at the bit, waiting for me to get started. Welcome in. Hello. I see my friend Ron Hillier's in there, my friend Luke Greenia, my friend Michael Dane, Niles Van de Sand, and Nick Poverman, Thomas Carter. Welcome in, everybody. And today I'm going to finish up this little Lian Li computer that I've got from my friend Ron here. And we're going to do a couple of little upgrades that we're going to try. We're going to get a 2060 RTX Super graphics card in there. And we're going to pull that one out, go with a little better graphics card. And I want to see if a Pure Rock 2 will fit in this case. There's nothing wrong with this cooler except it can get a little bit loud. And Ron doesn't care about all the flashing lights and stuff. So kind of curious how deep this case is compared with the TU-100, if that's going to fit. It looks like it's going to be close. This is kind of something fun I found on Etsy. I can't get enough of Etsy. I think I have a disease. I like to support people that have their own business and they make their own creations and stuff that, is made in small quantities and, mom and pop kind of businesses. This is all 3D printed. I've jokingly said my disease is probably like Etsy Letsy. But this is a burning dumpster that I had written the internet because it feels about right to me. And it's like a working little dumpster. It closes. It's even got the little hooks for the big trash can to come hook it up and haul it away. And it's got a little battery in it. And if you can see, if I lower the brightness, the gain on the camera, you'll see it's, well, that's a little too low, Carey. Hold on. A little too aggressive. Let's bring that down. You can see it's got a little fire glow in there. And all it is another little 3D printed piece with a small battery on the bottom. And if you want to turn it off, you just take the battery out of it. And I just thought that was really appropriate. I've seen a lot of people order these and they'll put 2020. The year 2020 has been nothing but a big dumpster fire. But I just saw that and I had to have it. It's pretty small. It's only maybe 3 inches. But it's a little cute something. So I'm going to put that back here. And a link to that is in the video notes below the video today if you want to order it. It comes out of Texas, and bear in mind that if you guys overwhelm this poor guy with orders, he'll either hate me or love me. I'm not sure which one, but I thought it was kind of cool and appropriate. So again, a link for that is in the video notes, and there's all kinds of fun stuff on Etsy to check out. If you can think of it, somebody's probably making it. You can even get a little Funko figurine. They'll 3D print it and use photos and make it look like you. I was trying to get about 12 of them ordered, and nobody will do 12. They're over $100 a piece generally, and I thought, this would be a great opportunity for somebody that looking for work. And now, in fact, one person, apparently I scared them off so bad. I said, well, would you just make me one? They're like, no. They just stopped responding is what they did. I'm like, look, I'm not going to want 12 all at once. You can make them whatever you want. I'd like to give some away to my audience. And they're like, no, it's just a side business for me. I don't want that much work. What are you going to do? And I reached out to a few others and took a while to get some replies, but nobody was willing to do 12. So I just canceled that whole project. I thought it would be something fun, something to do for giveaways, but one of the issues is not all the people on Etsy are good sellers, and some of them perhaps work a full-time job, and this is something they do on the side. And when given an opportunity to, start ramping up production and scaling, they run and hide. So bear that in mind. My experiences overall on Etsy have been good. Had some shipment issues, especially since a lot of the products I order come from overseas. But everybody, for the most part, has taken care of me. It's pretty rare. I would say that my experience on Etsy overall has been much better than my experience on eBay over the years, I can tell you that. So, so today, I know I said I wanted to get back to finishing up this Cougar build. I'm so happy with this computer. I really bought it as a joke. That's the way life works out sometimes. I'm very much looking forward to putting it in use. And that 10th generation Intel chip is so smooth. There's something, and I wish I could, I'll have to study this more to figure it out. But when you're driving a car with the handbrake on, you feel something's wrong and you can't quite figure it out. Most of us have done that. You just can't quite put your finger on it, but you know something's not right. That's how I've been feeling with a lot of AMD builds. And when I put this 10th gen Intel 10700K together, it just was like butter. Everything, I just got a really good feeling. It's smooth, silky smooth. So I don't know if that's just my imagination or if I'm sensing something I'm having trouble putting into words, but I will be building some more 10th gen Intel processors. You know, the refinement, be that whether it was with intent or not, you know, the circumstances that Intel finds themselves in, the refinement of this 14 nanometer process is unlike any processor I've ever used. They generally don't, they being Intel or AMD, the chip manufacturers don't generally keep polishing and enhancing yesterday's technology. They let it go and they move on to something else, and that creates new problems and new struggles, new challenges. But what Intel's been doing the last, what, 3-4 generations, they keep re-honing or just honing and repolishing this chip, and it's just getting, I mean, I don't know how much more polishing's left in it. This is probably it, but I mean, this is about as good as it's going to get for this series of chip. The 10900K is impossible to get. I cannot find one, but I'm so happy with the 10700K. I ordered another one. Newegg had those on sale for 10 bucks off today. And I really like that Noctua cooler. I'm surprised to hear myself say it. I really don't want to like it, but I do like it. The installation was the easiest install of any third-party cooler. I thought size was easy, but at $69.95, I went to order more of them. They're totally out of stock. I went to order one on Amazon. They said I could order one. So I'll see what I can do about getting my hands on some more, because I was going to put it in the machine here. But, you know, these Be Quiet coolers, the PureRock 2, is probably the best cooler for the money on the market right now, in my opinion. You can pretty much cool every CPU on the market with that PureRock 2, and, except for Threadripper. It pretty much is going to do a great job. It's quiet. It's all black. It's $45 on Amazon. A link to the cooler and to the graphics card are in the video notes below. So check that out. Intel just announced a new chip, the 10685 instead of the 10700. No, I'm trying to remember what it is now. It was just announced, so I can look it up. They announced a brand new sort of middle ground, and it's a 10850. So because the 10900Ks are so hard to get, what Intel did is they came out with a Core i9 10850K. So instead of 10900K, it's 50 less, right? 850K, which is only 100 megahertz slower, not gigahertz. It's 1/10 of a gigahertz, of a single gigahertz slower, and it's $35 cheaper than a 10900K. If I read the article from PCWorld, my buddy Gordon Ung there wrote this article. He says that what's the value of 100 megahertz? Apparently $35. At least that's how much a discount Intel will give those who buy the new Core i9 10850K Comet Lake S CPU it officially unveiled today. That makes it fairly easy to memorize the specs of the newest 10th generation chips. You can take the 10-core i9 10900K and literally subtract 100 megahertz across all key specs of the x86 cores. For example, The Core i9-10900K has a 3.7 gigahertz base clock with a 5.1 gigahertz single core boost and an all-core boost of 4.8. With its thermal velocity boost feature, running speeds up higher when the chip is properly cooled. You can get 5.3 gigahertz on single core boosts and 4.9 on all core boosts. And yep, the 10 core 4i9-10850K has a 3.6 gigahertz base clock, 5 gigahertz single core boost, and an all core boost of 4.7. And when running in thermal velocity boost, it's 5.2 on the single core and 4.8 on the all core with TVB. So that sounds like a pretty good deal considering what the prices of these are. The 10850K is based on the Intel says immediate feedback they've received from customers, including to further expand options and different price points. And cynical people think that Intel's just trying to make lemonade from lemons by taking 10 core dies that don't quite reach the full potential of a 10800K and then selling them as 10850K chips. Intel made a similar move when it began selling their F versions of its CPUs with disabled graphics cores. In fact, if you eyeball the current Comet Lake S lineup, there are 3 10-core Core i9 models that are all so close in specs it seems silly. The thing is, if the Core i9-10850K can be found close to its expected $453 price, it's actually a far better value than the flagship 10900K. Losing 100 megahertz across all specs adds up to about a 2% clock speed reduction over the Core 10900K, Core i9-10900K, at a price reduction of only about 7.4, or actually a significant price reduction of 7.4%. But that price reduction assumes you can even find a Core i9-10900K at its expected price, which is, anybody? $488. Yeah. Have you ever seen one for sale under $500? Because I haven't. Gordon says, we looked on Amazon and Newegg.com on Friday, can only find the Core i9-10900K for $780 and $870 respectively. That price spike is likely driven by supply and demand, both retailers experienced because the CPU is hard to get. If the Core i9-10850K is indeed far easier to churn those out, it'll be a welcome relief for consumers willing to live with a chip 50K in name less, right? Who cares? The problem for Intel is AMD is expected to roll out its Zen 3-based Ryzen chips later this year. And to be fair, we shouldn't say expected, as AMD has said that Zen 3 is on schedule and coming out this year so many times, they might as well put up a billboard on Highway 101 near Intel's Santa Clara headquarters. Intel isn't likely expected to see much relief until the summer or later of 2021, about 12 months from now, when it's finally expected to release its 10 nanometer desktop chip, codenamed Adler Lake. Not much is known about Adler Lake yet, but it will supplant the company's Tiger Lake chips that are expected to launch later this year in laptops. So I'll put a link to this story. It's from PCWorld Magazine. You can go to PCWorld.com. It's right on the homepage. We've got about 500 people watching. Welcome in, everybody, and good to see all my friendly faces and the gang. And yeah, you know, was it Michael who said it? Bruce says those prices are out of control. A 3700X is $275 and it's so much better. Look, I've got AMD systems here and they're nothing but headaches. Every single one of them is causing me grief. And they're very particular about the RAM. I'm having all kinds of issues and I'm not quite sure if I'm just more demanding than the average user, or if I'm just so familiar with Intel that the little tweaks and things you've got to do to make an AMD system run smoothly are just unfamiliar to me. I'm accustomed in today's day and age with the technology the way it is to install the parts, leave the BIOS alone, plug it in and start to work, and to have a very reliable system. Unfortunately, my experience with AMD has been witnessed here, along with the number of repair videos you've seen. Count how many Intel repair videos I have and how many AMD repair videos I have. And that goes back all the way back. And it's not about the AMD chip. It's about the motherboards. It's about the RAM compatibility issues. It's about the BIOS issues with the cores not running at full speed. It's one thing after another. It's about AMD chipsets not letting you know when there's new drivers available that you have to manually check it yourself or do without. I have a long list of grievances with AMD, and I will still sell them, and I will still accommodate customers who want them, because at the end of the day, the build process is the same. It's the configuration side of things and the reliability over time that I'm struggling with. And to sustain my business, I need to keep all the warranty work as minimal as possible. And for that reason, you will continue to see more of the Intel series of CPUs, primarily after installing the 10th gen for the very first time in this machine here, and was just blown away by how amazing it is. And by amazing, I mean there was nothing special I had to do. It was easy. Cooler went on with no problem. It's running super cool. It's super quiet. I don't have to worry about driver updates. I don't have to worry about RAM compatibility issues. I don't have to worry about constant BIOS updates to make the thing work properly. So I'm personally very happy with this. And of course, they make different chips for different people. You know, apparently I'm just not an AMD guy. I hope one day that I can proudly go back to AMD, like I once was selling a ton of AMD Athlon XPs and very few Intel processors. But the maturity of the Intel chip and that it's been around so long really makes for a very stable and compatible platform. Every RAM manufacturer, every single RAM manufacturer gets Intel approval. This is not true with AMD. So it's going to take some time. Intel's taken a long time. This didn't happen overnight. And AMD isn't just going to wake up one day and all of a sudden they're going to be neck and neck with all of that compatibility and industry standard that's been defined by Intel this whole time. So I'm not a hobbyist. I don't have time to play around and mess with it. You'll see Threadripper back there. That system has never, ever run right in the years it's been since I built it. I think it's going to be better now. I don't know. I haven't had much time to play with it, nor have I been very motivated because of how much of my life it's already taken from me. But that being said, those are my opinions and my experience, and it's my responsibility to stay in business. And I don't have anything personal against AMD, and I have nothing personal towards Intel, honestly. I just want to stay in business. I want happy customers, and I want to be able to help as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, and do it once. I don't want systems coming back. Most of the systems you see coming back are all AMD systems, including this brand new AMD system that I built. And so today, since it came back, I'm going to, I've already replaced the board, and I'm going to replace the graphics card and the cooler and try and make it up to my friend Ron, that he had this inconvenience. So again, it costs me money when this happens. If this would have run the way it was supposed to, I wouldn't be putting a new graphics card and a cooler on it. In fact, it wouldn't even have gotten the memory it got or the solid state drive. If you recall the original build video, I had compatibility issues with both of those on this on the previous MSI motherboard that was in there, both of which worked fine on an Intel board, by the way. Now, whether or not I've got a bad board, I haven't defined that yet. I haven't had time, but it's costing me time, it's costing me money, and I've about had it. And you guys can sit there and tell me how great your AMDs are, and then you can also pay my bills if you want me to agree with you. Couple of contributions here. Niles Vandesand says the 10900K is in the Netherlands for $499 and it's in stock. Yeah, definitely not the case here in the US. Glenn's Music with $5 says, hello. It might be worth pointing out that the Windows 10 discount offer from PCWorld is due to expire pretty soon. Yes, as I said, it was good until the end of the month, and so we're the 27th of July, which is close to the end of the month. If you're hesitating, you have about 3 or 4 days left to make that purchase. Farrell Sparky with a $5 contribution said, yep, I'm regretting the AMD 3500 system I put together. Since day one, it's had problems. I'll be going back to Intel after this. I never had a problem there. Again, I'm not trying to paint a picture that all AMD systems are problematic. It's the percentage of problematic AMD systems compared to the percentage of problematic Intel systems. And because I'm a small business owner and I'm my only employee, anything that comes back means I can't be generating any new work, nor can I be billing for the work I'm doing because it should have been done correctly to begin with, and the fault lies with me. It makes me look bad. I don't care about the motherboard or the chip or the RAM. I don't care about the power supply. I care about my reputation with the customer because that's all they're looking at. They bought a system from me, it didn't work. If the customer doesn't know you really well, you'll probably never see that customer again. The cost of business is incalculable. Burpaw with a £2 contribution said Amazon is selling a 10900K for 550 pounds. Yeah, not in the US, they're not. And 550 is still well over the suggested retail price, but that's still a good price. That's about about $650 US, I think. So yeah, all I'm saying is you might build an AMD and it might be the best thing in the world, and that's great, and that's good for you. But that doesn't pay my bills. You're not my customer. So I'm not here to tell you not to build one. I'm here to tell you, as a business person analyzing current events that I have documented here on live video with systems from AMD and Intel you've witnessed and can witness if you've yet to witness. I cannot sustain this. I will go out of business. I can promise you, if I continue, I will have about 6 more months and I'll be done. I will completely, if everything continues the way it's going with AMD, I will lose my business by the end of the year. So in order to save the business and save my reputation, it has nothing personal. It's just business. So anyway, hopefully AMD gets this resolved. As I mentioned, I was selling a ton of Athlon 64s back in the day, very few Intels. Not until the Core Duo came out, and then everything shifted the opposite way. So you need to look at my history and understand the history of my business and how long I've been in business, and that it's not always been the same all these years. So again, you can have a great CPU, but if the motherboards, the RAM compatibility, and BIOSes are issues, it doesn't really matter how good your CPU is. And too many people are just focused on that CPU. They're too myopic, and they don't run any business, so they can think whatever they want to think. And they have an experience with one computer, not 100 of them, and they're not feeling the pressure of paying the bills and having customers upset at them when things don't go right. Because you might find when it starts taking it out of your pocket, you may not be so loyal to this company. Maybe you would be. I'm not you. But you also may not be in business for 29 years. Well, I've not been in business 29 years. I've been a professional tech for 29 years. My business is about 15 years. And it's a tough business to be in. How many computer shops in your neighborhood have you seen come and go in the last 15 years? Loyalty doesn't pay the bills. All right. So what I want to do, first and foremost, is I want to see if I can fit that Pure Rock 2 in here. I'm very curious. Oh, a couple other contributions. Stylus Sofo contributes €5. He says, I love your videos. And Chris Kingan with a $10 contribution says, just take my money. Just kidding. Here's to more content. Thanks, Chris and Stylus. Richard Angeline contributed $5. He says the Intel Core i9-10900, not the K, is 2.8 gigahertz, 10 core. It's $539.99, which is a good price. It's not a good price. That's about $100 over retail, the suggested retail. Thank you, Richard and Bearpaw and Feral Sparky and Glenn's Music. And of course, thank you to Niles Vandesan. Now, cooler. Let me take this cooler off, which should come off rather rapidly here. I really wish AMD would revisit their fan designs. I don't know why they insist on putting their logo on sideways when they know people are building tower computers. I don't know why they don't use copper base plates. They really cheap out, and these fans get awfully loud. No better than Intel's as far as noise goes. They're really not any better, but it's better than nothing. And I do like their mounting system. AMD's mounting system with the screws is super easy, and it's difficult to get wrong. It's certainly better than the old clips that they are using on some of the AM4 designs. They go back to the Athlon series of chips. So I want to pull out this PureRock 2 cooler and just kind of dry fit it to get an idea of depth, to see if it's going to fit in there. Oh, easy. No problem. We easily have another ½ inch of clearance there. So that's super good. And it's black. It's going to match the case well. I'm going to go ahead and pull the graphics card out of it. And of course, with the Lian Li, the case that we upgraded from, it was definitely too shallow for this cooler. Like I say, this cooler's $45 all day long on Amazon. It's a steal, I think. And the Scythe Mugen 5s are out of stock. Besides, the ones I've been ordering are all silver, which isn't going to look good in here. And it's also physically larger, which in this case probably would be okay. But the mounting system is a little more difficult on the Be Quiet, and I've covered that in detail. But on the AMD system, we'll see how it goes, because the 4 screws with the backplate might make it a very similar mounting system just to the stock cooler. Let's get this graphics card pulled out of here. Whoops, didn't mean to take that all the way out. That's all right. That's all right. Probably have to take the screws out that hold the card in though, right? Probably should do that. Come on now. There it goes. So this was what, a 1660 Ti, something like that. I can't remember what we put in here. Where's my glasses? I can read this thing. It's fine print. It is I don't know. This really bothers me when manufacturers of video cards do this. I'm sure it's in this fine print on the serial number. But you'd think they'd be a little more boastful around the fan shroud. But maybe I'm just accustomed to EVGA. I don't know. So I want to clean that old thermal material off of the Ryzen chip in there. Let me go back to my office and get the Q-tips and denatured alcohol. You don't have to use denatured alcohol. You just want the highest alcohol content possible from like rubbing alcohol. I've seen different alcohol levels in rubbing alcohol, even in the same store. So get the one that has the highest alcohol content. And then what I do is just grab a paper towel to wipe off the bulk of that thermal material, so I'm not sitting there scrubbing all day wasting Q-tips. You can just rub off the vast majority of that. And the cooler already has thermal material applied to the bottom of it, so we won't have to add any by hand. So with that done, I can grab a Q-tip, the alcohol. This bottle of alcohol, I think I've had this 15 years, maybe longer. I remember I had to go to the pharmacy to get it. And I was using it back in the day to clean cassette tape heads and VHS tape heads. The same alcohol I would use on 1980s technology to clean electronics is exactly the same that I use to clean electronics today. Or at least in this case, getting all that old thermal material off the processor, or the internal heat spreader of the processor. This is what, a 3600X Ryzen, I think, is what we got in here. That looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And yeah. What is better for 64 gigs of RAM, 2 sticks or 4? The problem with 4 sticks is you won't be able to upgrade to 128. You also have 2 more sticks that can go bad, doubling your rate of a chance of a failure, like statistically speaking. If you have 4 tires, you could have potentially 4 flat tires. If you were going to upgrade to 128 gigs, you'd have to replace all 4 modules. So I would always go with fewest modules possible in pairs. And that was a €2 contribution from Niles. And there is a quick tips video covering this in some detail. I've answered this question about 2 years ago, and it's been asked numerous times before. And I will try to put together another way for people to find this content, because people are just simply not finding it. The Church of Logic has contributed $10. It says, thanks for all your videos and knowledge. I now want to get into the industry as a young man. Right on. That's great. And so you should. John Dorrington has contributed £5. He says, hi, Carey. I'm on a Raspberry Pi B+. He's from Bexley, Kent in the UK. Welcome in, John. Chris Dobson with £5 contribution says, hey, Carey, I'm a long-time lurker, and I just want to buy you a Coke as appreciation for the methodical way you teach us. Right on, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate that. Our good friend Mario Wells just announced himself. There he is. He's given a $20 contribution. He says, nice to see you, Carey, in chat. I hope you're feeling better, Marty. He's been battling COVID-19. I hope that you are feeling much, much better than last week. John Panarelli has contributed $4.99. Thank you, John, as always. And thanks to all of you for your support. Montserrat Pagan Jr. says, I recently got an MSI motherboard Z370 SLI Plus. I had no idea they make motherboards with no wireless. Generally speaking, a desktop computer is not portable and therefore does not need wireless. Laptop computers all come with wireless because they're portable. Desktop computers, you don't really see people carrying them around. So therefore, it's pretty unusual for a desktop computer to have wireless. It's certainly slower, less secure, less consistent with quality, performance, and security. So wireless is something you would use if you positively cannot run a cable, but it's to be avoided if at all possible for the consequences, and it's always being upgraded. You run a wire once and you won't have to worry about upgrading that wire for probably 2 decades. You run wireless, you're probably going to be upgrading it for performance, speed, security, what have you, range. So wireless is best to be avoided if it can be avoided. And if you have to use it, I mean, you have to use it, but that's by default the reason why wireless is not included on desktops. They're not considered portable computers. Michael Dane with a $10 contribution says, thanks for being you. As Tony the Tiger says, you're great. Getting ready to work on my 26th computer for some family back here. Right on, Michael. Thank you. And thanks for doing what you do for people in need. I'm sure that they greatly appreciate it. So putting the cooler on, as I mentioned, I've not put the Dark Rock 2 on an AMD system before, and I'm hoping it's just going to use the existing backplate that AMD requires the motherboard manufacturers to provide. So let's see what we got. There's the fan. And there's the box of parts. No, oh, documentation's in there. And the rest of this can go right over there. All right. So in here, we've got a bag labeled Intel. I do like how Be Quiet separates them out like that. That's handy because we know we don't need anything in that bag. This is clearly AMD. It says AMD. And then the mounting bracket is universal regardless, so you have to have that. Okay, so I guess we just have to secure these brackets on. It should be super easy to install. What it appears, and I can pull out the documentation, but it appears we've got some O-rings here that hold these screws in place. No, that can't be right. Or can it? I don't know. I'm gonna have to read the documentation. Let's get this poured out on the table. Okay, so that's everything we need to get the cooler installed. Keith Gray has contributed $20 and said he's been burned too many times by AMD and I only buy Intel. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I'm not doing like an AMD slam fest here. I'm just telling you how it is with my business. That's all. I don't want to hate on AMD. I just want to stay in business and I want to have happy customers and I don't want systems coming back over and over and over again for bizarre problems I've never before seen. And again, if you look through my video library, look through my repair videos and count how many are Intel and how many are AMD, it's not even close. And I don't make those repairs up. Those are real repairs from real customers. I don't have any control over what rolls in here. So I work on them all. I get paid the same. It doesn't really matter. But when it's warranty work and it makes me look like a fool, then I start taking it personally. So I'm just not real happy with AMD. They're just costing me too much money. Whatever I saved putting in a Ryzen and a mini ITX board, I promise you, if this would have been an Intel, this would have been already done. Ron would be using it for over a month now. I promise, without issue. I have experience that proves it. So for that reason, you'll see a couple more mini ITX builds coming up, all featuring Intel. I just can't afford to keep going back and fixing things for free. And while I'm doing that, I'm not getting waiting customers help. And that means they could go somewhere else and I lose money there too. So my losses are double and triple for a warranty repair. The important thing is that Ron is a friend of mine, so I don't have to worry about losing a customer. And the important thing is that he was the guinea pig on this project, not one of my customers. So he'll tolerate it. Most customers will not tolerate that. And if I was a customer, I wouldn't tolerate it either. You're supposed to know what you're doing. I trust you. I've given you my hard-earned money, and you give me something that doesn't work, and I expect you to fix it. And the fact that you brought it or delivered it to me when it was not working right suggests to me that you don't know what you're doing, or you're rushing, or you sold me parts that are simply not up to the standard that I expect from somebody of your caliber. Okay, we've got documentation on the AMD side here, and it does not show those little O-rings going in at all. There's no mention of these little other washers. There's no mention of the washer. It's included with the AMD kit. Yeah, it's just not there. I will have to reach out to the folks at Be Quiet and find out what's going on. Why do they include those washers? And then there's nothing in the documentation about it. Let me just take a picture with my phone. And let's take a picture of the documentation. And then after the show, I will email Be Quiet and find out what's the story with that. James Presley's contributed $5. He says, thanks for the content. I really learn a lot from your videos, and it's time for me to give back. A Coke and a burger on me. Hey, James, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Keith Gray. Oh, I mentioned that one already. Thank you. Terry Lee with a $5 contribution. My thanks, Terry, Keith, James, Michael Dane, John Panarelli. Thanks, you guys. Nunman 1962's just contributed $10. He goes, here's a small contribution, but I made a larger one with an Amazon gift card, for the most part, for the RoboForm deal by you and Simon Davis. It's a steal compared to my LastPass Premium. Thanks again, Carey. Right on, Nunman. I'm glad that you saw the value in that RoboForm offering, because I think that's a heck of a deal, a real value. Chris says those little washers are insular spacer rings in case the surface mounts on the PCB interfere with the black backplate. Yeah, but they don't include a backplate for AMD because the motherboards already have them, so that doesn't make any sense. Also, these are not rubber or plastic, these are metal, these little washers. And there's no mention of them in the documentation. So when you open up the AMD plastic baggie, you have the brackets, you have the spacers, the screws, and the washers. And yet when you look at the documentation, there's no mention of those washers. It's just not there. In fact, I'm kind of curious if they even have the, in the parts list, are they included? Let's see what the parts list says. Because they'll tell you everything that's in the box. It says AM3 washers. AM3 washers is what they're for. So we're using a socket AM4, but it also mentions O-rings, which we don't have. Unless that's in the Intel bag. AM3 washers. Yeah, I didn't see anything about a different installation process for AM3. It's just two different installation processes for Intel and one installation process for AMD. It does say the 4 AM3 washers. It does say it in the documentation here. To mount the PureRock 2 on an AM3 motherboard, please use the 4 AM3 washers, placing these below the backplate bolts protruding through the front side of the motherboard. Well, there it is. So it is mentioned in here, but it's, I'm looking at pictures, and there's no pictures. So that's where I'm thrown. But again, this is a socket AM4 motherboard, as are all Ryzen processors. So if you've got an AMD Ryzen, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to figure out what you've got. And now to put the brackets on, I want to take another look at how this is going to mount. We need the brackets apparently to go on lengthwise. And again, the Be Quiet kind of drops the ball here with regards to showing how the bracket should be oriented. However, with AMD systems, it's probably impossible to mount the brackets horizontally because of the spacing. But I will say they also do not indicate which side is up. And the documentation does not clearly define which side is up, except there is a subtle, very subtle little ridge right there that you can find on the top. But it could be the same way the other way, depending on how you're looking at the picture. I think Be Quiet could really do better with not zooming in so much, give us a picture further out that shows the orientation. Does the bracket go on this way or does it go on this way? And does it go on upside down or does it go on, you know what I'm saying? Like, how would I know which way is upside down? That's not clear, not clear, which is why I make videos, because in the industry, finding documentation that is not clear is sort of standard, even now when there's so many technically capable people available to translate the technical speak into normal person communication, you know, plain English, simple, easy to follow instructions, step by step, screw by screw. They could have consumed the same amount of space. They even have a whole blank space right here. They've omitted information where they had room. They could have shifted all of this over one and added another little picture. So I just don't understand. I don't understand. It's not like that's going to cost them anything. So looking at these spacers, what I'm noticing right away is as soon as I put the spacer on, the depth of the screw is significantly reduced to just a few threads. That's a little worrisome that that's only going to go in a few turns into that standoff. But if that's what they want me to do, see, here's the thing. You got to remember, there's also got to be space that thick for the bracket. So if I was to put the bracket on, and then the spacer, it ain't happening. There's not enough sticking out. So I'm still not doing something right. This is not good. I wonder, maybe those spacers aren't used at all. So again, instead of looking at the pictures now, which shows those spacers in use, oh, okay, I see. So what's got to happen is the spacer has got a hole in it that's narrower on one side, and the other side is much more wide open. And what they want you to do is they want you to push this back plate behind the motherboard through so that the spacer, using the wide open end of the spacer, grabs onto that. So that's going to take the spacer down by about 1/8 of an inch in length that we now have available. Hidden, but it's there. Now, how I'm supposed to get that spacer to stay on there, that's a mystery. It's not gripping on its own, it's just falling right off. And so working with the case upright is basically impossible. Be quiet, I feel, dropped the ball here on the AMD process, the AMD cooler installation process. They did a good job on the Intel side, but really disappointed here on this. Yeah, I'm going to have to lay it flat, but when I lay it flat, then the back plate's going to want to fall out. So I'm not exactly sure what those folks over at Be Quiet are thinking. I won't hesitate to recommend this cooler for Intel, but boy, this is not easy. And for no good reason, so far as I can tell. This could have been engineered a little differently to be easier. And for some unknown reason, they decided not to, or they decided it was easy enough. Somebody made that decision, and I would like to meet that person, invite them over to my kitchen, and ask them to demonstrate the installation of this bracket on an AMD system. Please show me how you do it. Then I will film them, and I will film the expression on their face as they do it, and we'll start a timer and see how long it takes. Then we'll grab a side cooler or an actual cooler of the same style, and we will measure the length of time it takes for their engineer to install it. I think that they would not take me up on my offer. I bet you. I bet you they're not going to do it. I wouldn't do it. So even doing this with the case laying flat is a super challenge because now the back plate wants to fall out. There's nothing supporting it, and so there's nothing for the standoff to grip onto. And if I lift the case up and put my hand under that back plate to support it, I have to put two on at the same time because I cannot put the screw into it until the bracket sits. So now with one hand I'm holding the back plate, with the next hand I'm going to set the bracket down, but because I'm holding the case on an angle, the bracket wants to slide forward, it won't stay in place. So I've got my electric driver and I put the screw on the end of it in the hopes that I can just time everything just right. Getting this bracket to stay upright, I pretty much need another person here to assist me because it is requiring some form of support, and I no longer have any more hands to do it, and Be Quiet has not provided any sort of tool to make this process easier. So I guess I'm going to have to start these by hand. I don't know what else to do. And on top of that, as if all that wasn't bad enough, the bracket has two positions the screw can go in. And I need to be on the inside one, which is the most difficult one to get at when the bracket's tilted that way. It's not fun. This part is not fun. Now compare AMD's solution, just the stock cooler, 4 screws. Why Be Quiet couldn't give us something similar? We just put 4 screws in, be done with it, move on, get on with life. I don't understand that. If it means they have to charge $5 more for the cooler because they got to pay some sort of royalty, I'd be okay with it. What's your time worth? All right, so with the bracket installed, I can show you now how difficult that is and why. Let's see if we can get the camera moved over. So looking in the case, if we zoom in, let's go down a little bit and zoom it right there. Okay, so this bracket right here is what I'm referring to. And now that I've got one side in, the other side should be a lot easier to put on because now the back plate which is here behind the motherboard, if I turn the case around, this metal back plate is now being secured by the 2 screws in the bracket. But that was a real challenge to get that bracket on. Now hopefully I can just place that little standoff there. And that one up there. And again, they could have done the manufacturing process where that's a tighter fit because those just want to fall right off. And looking at the bracket, I mentioned there's 2 holes, one towards the outside edge and one towards the inside. You want to use the one on the inside for a AM4 for a Ryzen chip. And look how close that gets to our RAM. Look at the bracket and look at the RAM. I mean, it just doesn't get much more close than that. I mean, they really were pushing their luck on that one. So as far as design goes, I think the mounting technique that Be Quiet has gone with for AMD needs to be refined and made easier. But the same cooler on an Intel system goes on no problems. I got no complaints on the Intel side of things. And I don't know. I think they just need to go look at their competitors, look at how other folks are doing it. And I'm going to have to set the case back down. As you can see, it's quite a challenge to make an attempt to install this with the case upright. I like to do it with the case upright so you can watch, but it's just not possible. So I'm going to lay the case flat. And that way, when I set the bracket down, it won't try and slide off. So again, we can talk a bit about AMD here. When I mentioned to you that I prefer the Intel systems, it's not always just about the chip. Even this mounting technique is unmatched in difficulty with Intel from the same cooler in the same box. So it's just part of what comes along when you select your chip. The good news is, of course, once you install your heatsink, once you're done with that, you shouldn't have to do it again for a very long time. But having the process be easy is always a welcome thing, because the build process should be fun. See, this always throws me too. They don't really indicate on this bracket which end is up, they being be quiet. And of course, this is true of Intel or AMD because you're going to use this bracket. But you see these little ridges that stick up? Those are going to go into the little holes right in here. There's little slots. So those little teeth bite in to those little slots. And then when you align it properly, it should be about equal on both sides. And be quiet doesn't give you anything to secure this, which is better than what, the Hyper 212 Evo doesn't give you anything to secure it either. I want to rotate this so the Be Quiet logo will be upright, unlike AMD's logo on their stock cooler. Then I'm going to set it down directly on top of the CPU. And then we'll add the 2 large screws that are in this bag. These kind of look like traditional case screws, but they're significantly bigger. And we're just going to tighten down both sides. And this is a difficult screw to reach in this case design because of the rear fan being where it is. And the rear fan can come out super easy. It's a big deal, but I'm trying to avoid doing that because I feel like I don't tend to. All right, that locks the cooler down. And now I can work on getting the fan installed. When I put the fan in, here we go. I think that looks pretty good, wouldn't you say? When I put the fan in, I want the air to go through the fan like this. And then this fan will also be moving the air that direction. The front fan is also moving the air. We're going to have a lot of good airflow in this case, moving the air from the front towards the back. So to ensure that, I'm going to rotate the fan accordingly. And I will put these little wire hangers on. And I probably need to do a little nylon zip tie on this cable now before I install it, or it'll be impossible for me to reach. So let me take a quick look inside the case to see where's my CPU fan header at. I can't find it. Oh, there it is. It's all the way over by the 8-pin CPU power connector. They moved it pretty far over there. That's odd. I just want to double check that. That's really strange. Just going to do a quick verification in the motherboard manual, which I could pull up a PDF. I don't have to physically pull out the manual, but give it a shot. I think this is just going to be quicker. Yeah, it shows it as number 3 on the list. Way up in that corner, number 3 is the CPU fan header. I'm accustomed to that being located right up above this bracket somewhere next to the RAM. So that's pretty unusual. They moved it all the way over there. But that's important to check because not all the fan headers are the same. If the BIOS were to notice that you had no CPU fan, it may prevent your system from turning on to protect the CPU. And some motherboard BIOSes will be kind enough to tell you no CPU fan detected and then cause the whole system to stop. All right. So a little confusion. Not too bad. Not too bad. Oh, I've had worse. Kenton Morton has contributed $2. It says Noctua versus Be Quiet. Which one is better? Well, the Be Quiet cooler is $45. The Noctua cooler that I demonstrated the other day is $69.95, $70. So the Noctua cooler installs easier. It probably runs a little cooler. I don't know until I do the tests. But you do get what you pay for in this industry, generally speaking. This is one of the cheapest tower coolers you can buy in black. The only one I know cheaper than this that's name brand is the Hyper 212 Evo from Cooler Master, and its mounting system is just as challenging. I would say equal to, if not a little more complicated than this. This one's a minor improvement. Then you can go to Scythe for about $5 more, but then it'd be silver. I know they have a black edition of the Scythe, but I don't know how much it sells for. And then you go above that to the Noctua. So the Noctua is significantly more money. It installs a lot easier. And I do believe it is a superior cooler. And I'm referring specifically to the, what's the model? I have to look at the box. The Noctua cooler is the NH-U12S. There's been some confusion with the Chromax moniker. I've explained that the budget line of Noctua is called Chromax, where all the products are black. And I've had several people say, that's not true. The Chromax line is just the black line, has nothing to do with the price. Well, so it's just coincidence that all the Chromax products are cheaper than the non-Chromax products? I don't think either one of us is wrong. I think you're choosing to see it a different way. If I'm buying fans for a computer, the cheapest fans I can buy from Noctua are the Chromax fans, which also happen to be black. And that $70 air cooler is one of the cheapest coolers, as far as I know, of that size that Noctua makes. If I'm wrong, please correct me, send me some links, show me I'm wrong. But I do believe the Chromax line is the budget line, and the budget line is black. But, it's a nerd argument anyway. Because if you want the black product, as I do, I'm going to pay whatever it's going to be. It just so happens they from Notch they're cheaper. So I'm not exactly sure why that is, other than I'm just putting it together. It's got to be their budget line. Does the 10700 have Wi-Fi built on the chip? Well, there is some discussion of Intel adding Wi-Fi into CPUs in the future. That has never ever been the case in the history of CPUs. Perhaps in the future we will see Wi-Fi built on the chip, but that'll probably be 2 to 3 years at the earliest before that would happen. The problem when you build Wi-Fi into something is the inability to upgrade it. So if you have, let's say you have a CPU from 7 years ago, what was the Wi-Fi standard 7 years ago? What was the range and what was the security in Wi-Fi 7 years ago? And what is the range and security on Wi-Fi today? And how would you upgrade it? You can't just take the CPU apart and change it out. You would have to physically go into your BIOS and find an option to disable it and then add another Wi-Fi adapter. So you'll have two Wi-Fi adapters in your computer. Adding a Wi-Fi adapter as a permanent fixture of a device limits the life of that device because of the limitations that are inherent in Wi-Fi technology. It's fairly new technology and it has a long way to go for improvement with regards to range, performance, and security. And it's always a race against the hackers. They think they have a secure standard and then the hackers hack it, then they've got to find a solution for it. And then they think they've got good range and then they find out, well, we can get even better performance with shorter range. So they start offering, another format, then we go into multi in, multi out and dual band, tri-band, and it gets more and more complex and more expensive. And of course, if it's all built on your motherboard or it's built on your CPU, then the only clean way to upgrade that is to replace the motherboard or CPU. Otherwise, you'd have to just sort of patch onto it, sort of like anybody remember, what was that Russian space station called? They sort of hodgepodged the space station and they just pieced it all together. Things were upside down and sideways because it wasn't originally engineered or designed to have anything added to it. So they made it up as they went along. I can't think of the name of that satellite. I mean, it's since fallen to Earth. The thing was just a hodgepodge of a mess. So getting Wi-Fi built into like a laptop or a tablet or your smartphone, these are traditionally items that get replaced more often than a desktop. But that's partly why. But also because of the portable nature, those items are generally not built to the same performance level. They're also more prone to theft or damage, or having things spilled on them, the screen cracking, or being lost, misplaced, forgotten. Oh, I left it behind and it's gone forever. And so those items are generally replaced more often than desktops. And when you replace it, you'll have the latest Wi-Fi standard, or you should if you're buying something new. So these are all things to consider with Wi-Fi. It's not like FM radio, which has never changed. Wi-Fi is constantly being improved. The standards are changing. We're on Wi-Fi 6 right now. So the sixth change in standards over the last, what's it been? It's about every 3 years. There's a new change to the Wi-Fi standard, something like that. So I like to build a system that's just going to run for a long time. So if you add a little USB Wi-Fi dongle, it's no big deal to unplug it and replace it with a newer USB Wi-Fi dongle. It's cheap, doesn't require a screwdriver. It works in many cases just as well. Tom Jackson has contributed $7.77. Thanks, Tom. Leon Goosens has contributed €5. Thank you, Leon. Was it Skylab? Skylab, was that what I was thinking of? It was bad. It was really bad. Not Skylab. Was it Mir? Mir sounds better. Russian Mir. Yeah. It was Mir. So Mir, if you research that, if you've never heard of it or you don't know the story of it, it sort of was like became looking like a hamster's habit trail. They would attach a room that was completely upside down and sideways because that was the only way they could get it to fit. So if you're in the space station and you entered into another room, you had to reorient which side is up. And then you go to another room and in between rooms, it kept changing which way was up because they were just trying to make it fit. And then eventually they just like, this thing's losing its orbit. We'll just let it fall in the ocean. It start again. So the space station, the International Space Station, was better thought out for expansion and growth, and of course doesn't have any of those issues. Yeah, Mir. Thank you for letting me know. I couldn't find that word. I kept thinking Sputnik, but of course Sputnik was the first satellite. That's not a space station. Nick's providing me with the Noxious Chromax lineup, which is of no interest to me. I'm trying to focus on the pricing, and I think if you look at the pricing of the Chromax products and their equivalent to other Noxua products with a different brand, that the Chromax ones are more aggressively priced. There might be a few exceptions there, but overall, things like fans and even this cooler are, well, not that cooler, that's be quiet, but the Noxua cooler that I have installed the other day, those are, $70 on a Noxua cooler. That's a cheap Noxua cooler. But it's a pointless argument to have because whether or not the products are called Chromax because they're black or whether they're the budget line, those are the products I'm using and I'm recommending, and those are the prices. If the prices were what I was accustomed to with Noctua, in other words, looking at their brown fans, I wouldn't use them. They're far too outrageously priced for what you get in return. The Chromax products that I've used in both fans and coolers are still higher priced, but they're not offensively priced like many of Noctua's other products. Spending over $100 for an air cooler seems insane to me, but I'm installing dozens of them all the time. It can get expensive rather quick, and then the amount of weight it adds and everything else, and then it's just ugly. It's just flat out ugly, regardless of how it works. So, regardless of and again, to get an official response from Noctua, I think would be helpful. But regardless, the Chromax products are the more affordable line that I've used from Noctua, and they're black. Nick says you asked for documentation. Yes, I asked for documentation showing the price comparison between equivalent products from Noctua or a statement from Noctua that explains that that's their budget line. If the Chromax line from Noctua isn't their budget line, then tell me what is the branding from Noctua that represents their budget line. I just got through a couple of videos ago talking about the pure rock, dark rock, and what that means. Every company has a budget line for the most part, especially when it comes to case manufacturers, cooler manufacturers. So what is Noctua's budget line called? Just because Noctua is playing with words and doesn't want to call it their budget line doesn't mean it's not their budget line. It's like when you walk into I remember walking into a pizza place and I said, I'd like a small pizza. And they said, we don't have smalls. We have mediums, larges, and extra larges. I said, then your medium is a small. They go, no, it says right there, medium. I'm like, okay, this is wordplay, and I'm not a fan of wordplay. I like people who say what they mean and mean what they say. And when corporations and marketing teams start messing around like this, it's really offensive to me. And when people buy into it, uh, this is what perpetuates this constant manipulation, psychological manipulation on behalf of marketing companies. See it for what it is, call it what it is. Let's be honest. So, anyway, I was going to grab a nylon zip tie and put that on so I can get the fan on, and then we can put the graphics card in and we can fire this thing up, start benchmarking. We'll run Time Spy on it, and we'll run Prime 95 and get some heat results. It should be, that cooler should be overkill for that chip, to be honest. That's a 3600X, and that cooler is way more than that chip should require, by far. Dr. Michael Ferguson with a 10-pound contribution. Thank you, Dr. Ferguson. And again, thanks to Leon, Tom, Kenton, Nunman, Terry, Keith. Thanks you guys again for supporting the channel. Remember, Noctua didn't provide those coolers to me, nor have they ever. They're purchased with money, so I can evaluate them in the same way that the viewers at home would do it. They're not sending you any coolers for free, are they? It's kind of a hard business model to maintain. So I'm trying to represent what you guys should expect from any particular parts or installation experience that I have without any preparation, without any rehearsal, just using my years of experience as my guide and as my barometer for measuring difficulty. Sometimes, knowing how to do something a different way makes it harder to learn a new way because you have to unlearn, versus if you have no point of reference, it can be faster to learn something that's different. And so sometimes experience can hurt you, especially if a manufacturer is really thinking out of the box. And I don't mind that if they're doing it for a greater purpose. If it's reducing manufacturing cost, if it's better for the environment, if it optimizes the effectiveness of the product, whatever the case may be. But I feel like the Be Quiet does stuff for no apparent reason. Like their power supply designs, I cannot get behind their power supply designs with all of the vertical mounts for the modular connectors on the back of the power supply. I'm not aware of any other power supply that does that. Makes it difficult to see where the connectors are, especially if you've got a shroud installed, and makes it very, very difficult to do simple upgrades and repairs on systems with Be Quiet coolers where a fan shroud, or a power supply shroud rather, is installed. And I can't figure out why they do that, other than they just want to be different because nobody else does it. I see no benefit to it. And therefore, I can't get behind it. I can't say, okay, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. They're making my life harder than it needs to be. They're making my customers pay more for a job that should cost less money and take less time because their product is not optimized for maintenance or installation. It's just designed, as far as I can tell, because they can. I don't know. Might have to get Be Quiet on to explain that a little better, see if they can give me an explanation, because I've thought about it 16 different ways trying to figure out what logic they used. And the best I can come up with is they just did it because they could. To be different. And different isn't always better. When it is better, I'm all for it. But different for the sake of being different, when it's costing me money and it's costing me time, that's offensive to me. It's as if you're saying my time has no value. Let's take a look. How are we going to mount that? I guess this will go on right about there. Now, if they were giving the product away for free, then I'd have a different attitude. So I realize you can't see what I'm doing there, but I have to get right in front of it to hook these little wire hangers on. And I know I had a little concern with how loose these were on the previous one I installed on the Intel system, but it ultimately stayed on. Let's see. Move that up. Pull it back. There it goes. There it is. Yeah, you can see how much play that has. It's crazy. But apparently it doesn't hurt anything. It just kind of bothers me, but it doesn't seem to affect the cooler at all in a negative way. It's just, it's a little loose for what I'm accustomed to. So remember, I have a point of reference that perhaps is misleading me that it has to be done that way. But I will say that things that lock and fit tight make me happy. Not just computer thing, anything. If I tie my shoes, I want my shoes tied tight. If I put a belt on my pants, I want it tight. And if I plug cables in, I want them to fit tight. If I hook a fan on, I want it to be tight. It reassures me that it's installed correctly. When it wiggles around like that, it makes me feel like it's not. It's not sitting properly. It wasn't designed right. But that hooks up the fan super easy, super easy. And then I will take this documentation and the old parts, or not the old parts, but rather the spare parts for the cooler, and that'll all go to Ron, because maybe one day Ron will want to pull that cooler off and put it on an Intel system. So I want him to have all of the brackets and screws required to move this when and if that day ever comes. So now I can get the graphics card put in. This is a ZOTAC Gaming GeForce RTX 2060 Super. It's about a $429 graphics card, and it's about $20, $30 more because it's the mini version. You can buy a 2060 Super. Are you going to eat that, Lyle? You can buy a 2060 Super for about $20, $30 less if you want a full-size graphics card. This is a small case, and even though it will accept a full-size graphics card, I still don't want to install it because of the likelihood of damage in shipping. Given a choice, I always want to use the shortest graphics card possible. Now, on high-end graphics cards like 2080s or even 2070s, it's not possible, as far as I know, to get them in the mini size, but you'll see the length of this card isn't too bad or too different from what we had in there, which was what I say was 1660 Ti. It's a little bit larger. Hold on a minute. I got the wrong camera feed on my side. Let's go this way. Here we go. So if we align those brackets up, you'll see the size difference. A little bit taller, a little bit longer. But other graphics cards, they'll come out like this. And again, this case will accommodate that. But I am a little paranoid about the weight, cost of shipping, and the potential damage in shipping. I'm looking for any plastic on here that I can remove. I don't feel there's something up at the top. Here it is. I knew I was feeling it. So at least ZOTAC puts GeForce RTX. They still don't tell you their card names. And I don't know why ZOTAC hides that. You'd think they'd brag. I'm so used to companies boasting and bragging. I'm not quite sure what to think when I get a company that doesn't. And you have to sort of pull out a magnifying glass to read the serial number to figure out what the heck the card is if the system's off. Clearly, if the system's turned on, we can just go to the properties, look at it in the device manager. Trying to remember I took this out. It's on the outside. That's how it went in on the inside. And then I had a thumb screw. There it is. It's down on the floor. And that'll go in right here. And we'll secure that down. So the extra fan brackets, he's not going to be able to add another fan unless he took this fan off, but he wouldn't need to. As I mentioned, this should be overkill for this build. Let's fire it up and see how it runs. That's what I need to do. I need to feel some progress. Let's get rid of that. Keep that. We'll keep those little washers. We'll keep that warranty statement. And let's get it plugged in. I usually like to plug the power in last, but that's the first cable I grabbed, so that's the first one that's going to go in. Plug in the... Whoa. Whoa, not good. Not good. I have trapped the rear fan cable in between the graphics card and the case, and I just realized that. So I'm going to loosen this and take the card back out. Usually, if something like that were to happen, the card will typically not go in. It'll struggle, like you'll struggle to get it installed. But this card went in super easy, so I'm a little baffled how I was able to pinch that cable. I need to pay attention to this fan cable and its location. Make sure that that stays out of our way. And if I had turned that on and it had shorted, you know, if I had gone through the insulator, that would not be good. So I'm glad I caught that now. And the reason I caught it was I couldn't plug the HDMI cable in because this fan cable was in the way. So that looks good now, and the fan cable here is free and clear, which is good. All right, so back to the HDMI cable. I've already got the keyboard and mouse plugged in, so we'll plug the HDMI cable in here. And now we can do power. We'll plug that in right up here. And I can grab my timer so we can run Prime 95 and see how this Dark Rock 2, is it Dark Rock, Pure Rock? I still can't figure out their naming convention. This is a Pure Rock 2. Okay, looks good. Let me move that over here. Put the timer up here, which I have not started yet. And we'll turn the keyboard and mouse on. We'll give them both power. Okay, finally, I think we're ready to do a little smoke test here, see if we've completely broken it. Sure, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just going to complain along the way. Let me just put myself in a corner like so. We'll turn on the camera 2 input, which is the back of your monitor, and let's power this on and see what happens. Fans are spinning. It's quieter. Taking that AMD CPU, the stock CPU fan out. And see what we get. Looking good so far. There's probably an updated driver, I would imagine. Oh, it's loading a driver right now. That's why the screen blanked out for a minute. Let me go full screen on my side, because I can't see much of anything right now. Connect up to the Wi-Fi here. Looks good. And let's see what we've got for video drivers. .451.67, and what's the latest? drivers, GeForce. RTX 2060 Super. I have a new studio driver. 45167. What did I say I had? 45167. So I'm good. It's the same driver. There is a new AMD chipset driver, and if you want to grab that, we can do that. We'll just type in AMD chipset driver, or try to type it, see whatever. Google should fix my typing errors. There it is. See, it fixed it. And we'll screw up. Oh. Let's see. We're going to do screen on my screen. Okay, so we're going to look at chipsets. We're going to scroll down, and we want download chipset driver. And scroll down here, we're going to select chipsets. We're at socket AM4, it's B450. It will submit that. And we'll go to Windows 10 64-bit. You'll see this was released on the 21st, just 6 days ago. We'll download and run that. You don't have to save it, you can just run it. It should download rather quickly here. It's not a very large driver. It's not a very large download. Is it like 30 megs or something? 48 megs. Yes, and then we will install this latest driver, chipset drivers, onto the machine, just to make sure we're getting the best performance and reliability and compatibility. We'll just hit install. This will take just a minute. While that's running, we can close the other window, and then I can go see what my dogs were barking about, so I'll be right back. Gonna nothing. So the drivers do take a moment to install, so be patient and let those complete, and then they will require a restart when they're done, so you can take advantage of them on the next reboot. It's sort of like trying to change a tire on a moving car. You know, you've got to stop the car, to get the tire off, put the new tire on. So sort of like that, it cannot replace files that are in use, critical system files. So what it does is it says, okay, on the next restart, these new files are going to replace those critical system files that are in use right now. So we'll do that, let it restart. And we can also get an idea of how long the system takes to boot. And Jimmy is killing a toy over there. What do you think, boys? It's past your dinner time, isn't it? Okay, we're gonna get you fed here in a minute. Just a minute. Then we just start a test, and then we can eat. How's that sound? Do I have a choice? No, you don't have a choice. Well, that sounds good. I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is run the TimeSpy demo, which should be this one right here. I feel like I'm taking up quite a bit of screen space, so let me just minimize that a little more. And we'll click run, and then while that's running, we'll feed the dogs. Now, to give you some comparison, that 1660, I want to say it was in the, it would benchmark with a number of right around 6,000. So I'll be kind of curious how this performs. And so while that does that, I'm gonna feed the dogs here real quick. You guys hungry? Are you hungry? Is it time for some food? Time for dinner? All right, here you go, boy. There's yours. And here's yours. Good boys. All right, benchmarks are looking good here. Things looks good. System is whisper quiet. I'm super happy with that. And then once we get a number we will compare the performance of the cooler. We'll see that, verify that it's going to run okay when it's pushed hard. And then hopefully we can get this out the door, get it shipped out tomorrow. I hope. I've been on a mission to try and clear as many systems out of here as I can, as quickly as I can. Oh, is it time for a cookie? I don't know if it's time for a cookie. We're going to get some cookies? All right. Here's a cookie for you. Here's a cookie for you. See ya. Well, the benchmarks are running. If you have any questions for me, this is a good time to ask as we sort of bide our time waiting. The reason you'll see me run demo versions of the benchmarks is so those of you watching at home can run the same exact benchmark for free to compare your system to determine if something is of value to you. If all I use is paid tools, then how would you have any reason or ability to compare, since it would not be a fair comparison? So 8241 is the test result. That's not a huge performance increase over the 1660 card that was in there. We were getting about what was the test? It was over 6,000. So this is maybe a third faster. It's not a big increase, but I suppose it's also a third more money. I guess that makes sense. I don't know what I was expecting. Let me go full screen here again on my side so I can start Prime 95. And we can get an idea of the cooling. I'm going to run both these temperature monitoring programs, HW Monitor and HW Info. Again, all of this is freeware, and you'll see it. I'm not installing anything. It's just portable applications that can be run straight without installation. And I don't want any beta software. We should be into the sensors. Are we into the sensors here? Yeah. So we're looking at this temperature range here. I want to watch this side, particularly this number. And I want to keep it under 85. And over on this side, I want to watch well, that's GPU temperature. I don't care. I guess we'll just watch the package because we're not getting into, oh, wait a minute. These temperatures here probably represent the CPU. There's 6 of them. I don't know. So that's why I run them both on AMDs. That's another very confusing thing about AMD systems. It's very clear with Intel. This is just, it all adds up, folks. It all adds up with the AMD stuff. It just drives me up a wall to not get the same certainty that I get on Intel, but you do what you got to do. And let's run Prime 95 26.6. And we'll do the blended test, and here we go, full bore. We'll hit start on the timer. We'll let this run 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll keep an eye on our temps, see what they're going to do. Let me move this over here. Let's move this over here. Let's move this over here. It climbed up pretty quick at 64, but we're still good, and we're only about 30 seconds into the test, so we'll see how this rides out. And like I said, if you have any questions, take this time now to address any questions you might have. And Tony Cheek contributed $5. He says, thank you for the content and renewing my PC building addiction, and also for sharing your awesome dogs with us. Thank you, Tony. It's kind of you. Bruce wants to know what I use as my daily PC right now. It's a Core i5-9400 with 16 gigs of RAM. That's what I use every day. The streamer computer that I'm using to broadcast this to you is an AMD Ryzen 3900X with 32 gigs of RAM and a 2070 RTX with the RTX voice software running. Jason Yearbank says, I treat 3D Mark as a 3D graphics tester, not a benchmark. A real benchmark is to actually play a game. Agreed. Well said, Jason. Welcome to moderator status. You're going to see a lot, and you'll see it here in the chat room, where people try to make big deals. They try, and I shut them down. I do my best to shut down people that are sort of panicking over nothing. Or at least it's my opinion. They're trying to make something appear to be more important than it really is. And it's a little frustrating to see this sense of urgency and dire coming from people in the chat room over something that's no big deal. And then other people will misinterpret that as me being smug or showing off, but I simply don't think it's a big deal. I don't think you need to worry about your temperatures. I don't think you need to worry about solving problems you don't have, and I don't think making mistakes is anything to be afraid of, nor is it anything to be ashamed of, nor is it completely permanent, right? You learn from the mistake, you correct your error, and you move on. In most cases, in computer building, there's no damage in most cases. So the idea that there's this panic set in, it's almost like they're trying to get other people to react, and it's just not worth reacting over. It's not a big deal. So people say, well, geez, Carey, you're super calm. Well, what am I doing? Am I diffusing a bomb over here? Relax. This is all supposed to be for fun. And when people panic, I mean, I wouldn't want to be them, because if you're freaking out over thermal compound or you're freaking out over temperatures, I think you're probably going to die young. I think you're going to have some sort of heart-related, blood pressure-related problems later in life if you don't get that under control, whether that's through medication or through therapy. I'm very, very concerned about some of what I see online. And how are you going to deal with life when you get real problems? Like if you're freaking out over nothing, what's going to happen when there's something really worthy of freaking out about? There's nothing worse than somebody telling you you're having a heart attack, like a doctor telling you you're in the middle of a heart attack and you don't realize it. When the doctor's wrong and you think, oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack, that can give you a heart attack. You understand? So it's important for your own health, both mental and physical, in my opinion, to remain calm and really see the big picture of how important what you're doing really is. I see it a lot. I see people freaking out over the tiniest little details, and it's very unpleasant to be around people like that. Very unpleasant. If you demand tiny details in the work that you do, I think that's admirable. If you demand it from others around you and you're not paying those others and you're not their boss, you're just irritating. And if you are the boss, you're probably still irritating, but it's worth putting up with you because you're getting paid to put up with you. How are we doing on our temps so far? 73's not terrible. All our temps here in the case or whatever look good. Everything looks good. We're doing all right. And the test has been running a little over 5 minutes right now. Johnny Jackwind has contributed 20 New Zealand dollars. He says, I missed the first hour of the stream and remember that the case mentioned what type of performance is the consumer after. They want a game. They're gamer. They want to, Ron Hillier is in the chat room. He's the person, the customer. He's the customer. You can ask him what games he plays. Feel free, Ron. Jump right in. Let him know. Colin Mitchell says, would it help to freak out? Hey, look, if it helped, I'd be all aboard. If having worry and anxiety would prevent the thing you were worrying and having anxiety about, I'd be all about it. But since it doesn't change anything, and all it does is affect your ability to react appropriately, or forget the word appropriately, react efficiently to make a wise decision under intense stress and pressure, Um, you might be at a precipice in your life where you require an emergency surgery, and you're going to have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to get a second opinion, or you're just going to trust this person, this doctor who you've never seen before, who knows nothing about you but other than your test results, and dictates that you require surgery. And at some point, um, if you freak out enough, it's pretty common for hospitals to administer a sedative in order to calm people down. I don't see the benefit in freaking out. I had an experience in my life that was life changing, and it was the person who was calm and in control that took a perpetual, potentially explosive situation into nothing. And a lesson has stayed with me for life. It's not enough to stay calm. You also have to move forward in a manner that is going to alleviate the situation. For that reason, I don't back down from people. I don't uh, I don't freeze. I react. So if I am physically being threatened, I don't run from it and I don't freeze. I pretty much don't try to escalate it. I try to reason with the other person. If they will not reason and the only language they speak is violence, I am prepared to speak that language without any help from anybody. And I'm very proud of that. It's a survival mechanism. And it's important that we remember that, in my opinion, we're all here temporarily. And the quality of my life is determined by me and nobody else. Nobody else will put me in fear. Nobody else will scare me. Nobody else will tell me what to do. So my life, my choices, my consequences, my benefits, my acceptance of responsibility of those things. I'm not looking to blame, but I'm not looking to find scapegoats or excuses. That is a part, I think, of the generation in which I was raised. I wasn't born this way. The circumstances of society required me to achieve a certain level of acceptance for me to survive. And I just was tired of running, done with it. And freezing? No. Freezing is just ridiculous. That's just, in my opinion, inhuman, because fight or flight is generally the instinctive reaction. To freeze is not instinctual, I think, for human beings, but somehow we've learned it through culture. But those are all my philosophies. I share a little philosophy when I build because building is very therapeutic for me. I enjoy the creation process. I enjoy accomplishing something, the sense of fulfillment. I enjoy helping other people, and I enjoy the puzzles. Like nothing's more frustrating to me than somebody constantly repeating themselves in the chat room that I'm looking at something wrong. It would be like you're trying to play a video game and you're trying to figure it out, and your friend is there telling you, you have to jump over here first and click the button over here. You're like, you're ruining the game for me, dude. Shut up. Or you're watching a movie and the person sitting next to you goes, hey, watch this next scene because this next scene is the part where you can see that that person is the killer. You've completely ruined it for the other person. So I ask you to sit, watch. If I ask for your, hey, do you guys know what this is? But otherwise, you're by trying to shove that down my throat, you are taking some of the fun away from me. And I want you to be aware of that. That's why I don't read the documentation. It's why I don't prepare by watching other videos. I don't have time anyway, but there's no rehearsal. I've just got experience, and I just trust my experience so that I will see it through. And if I make mistakes in that process, that's part of the fun. If I got it right every single time, I would be bored to death and I wouldn't want to do this because it would not be challenging and therefore I would not get a sense of fulfillment. And if I panicked and freaked out over the tiniest little things, I'd probably be dead already or on some serious blood pressure medication over what is really amounts to nothing that critical or important. Honestly, it's just not. It's just a computer. It's not a big deal. When you've got a business that's running and their system is down and none of their employees can work and their customers aren't being helped, that's far more stressful because there's a lot at stake happening there. But for your own personal use or making a video, regardless of how many people are watching, I don't care. I'm not going to change how I do things. The only reason I started this YouTube channel was to show you what it's like to work as a real technician, where there are generally no instruction manuals. You go out as a field tech, you work on whatever the customer has. If you're going to keep going back to manuals, you're taking too long, you're too slow, you probably won't keep the job very long because you're not productive enough. You've got to get in there, get the job done, and get out and get on to the next job. And you better get it right the first time. That's how I was taught, and I wanted to start this channel to demonstrate how that's so different from the big YouTube tech channels and how they just kind of play, or they just get paid to make commercials. I'm not interested in that. I mean, I played a little bit with this system here. This was fun. I am really surprised at how much I enjoy this. I really want to buy another one, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't even know what to do with this one. But I can't express how much I enjoyed this. But I'm not done with it yet. We'll come back to finish this up. But I think I'm going to put that to work for myself because I really got a kick out of that. That was so much fun. We're looking at 13 minutes in the test. Let's take a look at how we're doing on our temps. Maximum, I'm seeing 73.6 on the die and the TCTL T die. Looking over here, temps are looking real good. System, again, be quiet, staying true to their name. Despite my criticism of the mounting technique, it does appear to be a very good cooler. To the touch, the cooler is just warm, it's not hot. So it looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. We've got about another minute left before we hit that 15-minute mark. And then sometimes, Prime 95 will run a series of tests that can cause some systems to really get hot between the 15 and 20-minute mark. And so we'll let that go that full 20 minutes since it's running so well. There's no way a system will ever be pushed this hard by any customer ever that I've ever had. So I know if the system can fly through this without overheating or throttling, then I know very confidently there's nothing the customer's going to do to it that's going to cause that situation, regardless of thermal compound application, right? It's how the computer is used. I see so much focus from end users about the computer, but not about how they use it. You would think that these people were the most demanding computer users on the planet, producing content that was time sensitive and was intensive on RAM and CPU usage, and all they are is playing games, and it doesn't make them a better gamer any more than better pots and pans make you a better chef. So I need you to see through some of what you're witnessing online from people who talk a lot but don't do anything. I mean, I talk a lot, but at least I do stuff. I get stuff done eventually. I love it when people tell me how to make my videos when they've never made any videos. That's the best thing ever. Thanks for the help, guys. Perhaps there's other things you know better than me that you've never done. It's not offensive in any way, shape, or form, despite the fact you weren't asked and I don't know who you are. Welcome to my world. Make a video. See what it's like. Try it. I've had about 24 people over the last 2 years. About a person a month reaches out and says, I'm going to make a video. You've inspired me. Never hear from them again. Once you start to make the video and you realize how difficult it is, you'll probably not see it through. And then when the video is done well, because some people do see it through, when it's done well, I have the most respect for that because I know how much time and effort went into that. It is, and guts, because you're putting yourself out there publicly for ridicule and criticism for nothing, for no payment. You're just doing it because of your passion of the project. And there's people that are going to come along, take that free thing that you spent all your time and effort creating. They will take it and they will spit on it. And they will let you know that they spit on it. And you ask them, what have you done? What do you have to compare that against? And all they want to do is insult you. They're just hate-filled people. And just be glad you're not one of those people. When you see that, just say, thank goodness I'm not that person. Thank goodness I'm not going through the world like that, because that would be a miserable way to live a life. So use that as inspiration if it were to occur to you. to recognize the mental health issues that exist in the world and how they're widespread across the internet, serious mental health concerns, and don't let them infect you. It's contagious. Just laugh at it and go, wow, wow, that is one miserable person. Woo. I am so glad I am not that. Make you feel better about yourself when people do that. Where is Thready? Thready's right behind me. You can't see Thready back there? Marty has contributed $5. He says Bruce Lee, LOL, love it. Yeah, Bruce was a little guy, wasn't he? I was looking to see what if Ron had responded with what games he plays. I don't see. He says, "I think I'm going to call the system Mini Me." That's funny. A link for the cooler and the graphics card are in the video notes below the video. Always look at my video notes, please. I'm getting to a point now where I'm just going to leave all the video notes blank because I feel like nobody reads them, or the people that need to read them at least aren't reading them. So why am I spending so much time putting them together? They take quite a bit of time to assemble, and sometimes it's some of the reasons. Sometimes the reasons why the videos can run late is I'm busy putting all the little details in the video notes that people aren't reading. Ron says, I'm just a gamer, usually 1080p, some video transcoding. Yeah, but what games, Ron? What games? That's what we want to know. What games? Tristan said, I've learned to be more patient. I'm going to learn how to speak. He says, I've learned to be more patient and figure things out due to your videos, and thank you for that. I think you'll find the outcome is the same. He says, I'm sure you won't have any problems running Galaga on that rig behind you. I've got a real Galaga upright, so I wouldn't run Galaga on a PC. It's not right. I will say it was something that was frustrating to me when I had the swatting event, and I felt like, the officers weren't listening to me. And then when people took the cops' side, when they weren't there and you couldn't hear the whole conversation, I think I'm going to make a video where I replay that and I can tell you what's being said and explain to you how this officer was so wrong and unprofessional. And I'm a proud supporter of the police, but not of bad cops. I don't support bad cops, but I support good ones. And I know the vast majority of them out there are good ones. And it was so frustrating to sit there and say that I have a shotgun and that I killed somebody and that the person I killed is standing right there and I'm standing right there, and yet you still won't calm down and you still think you're gonna, like, I just really felt like this officer wanted to shoot somebody. And the hacker, the wannabe hacker, the script kiddie who did it, didn't do anything unique or different or creative. I would have respected if it was something unique, but they were just typing Google like any 6-year-old. It might have been 6 years old for all I know. And it was the police reaction that was so wrong. And, at some point, I understand, that they want to come in the house and everything, but they should have let me put the dogs away. By forcing themselves into my house, the dogs could have attacked them and they could have shot and killed my dogs. And that was, I think, what a lot of people don't get. And I think that wasn't picked up on the audio, that part of the conversation. And furthermore, once the officer arrived, and the person who was the supposed perpetrator and the supposed victim were identified, as far as I'm concerned, the welfare check is done. There was no other person mentioned. They didn't say caller didn't say I'm shooting random people. They were very specific. This is who I am and this is who I'm shooting. If you've just verified that those two people are in good shape and have no idea what the hell you're talking about, that's all fabricated, it doesn't take a detective to put it all together, see that there's no history at the house, and do a little sort of looking, smelling, hearing. Do you hear anybody crying out in pain? You can talk to the neighbors. Did you hear anything? They didn't do any of that. They just really came guns a-blazing, and despite the evidence in front of them, suggested that I had a difficult time grasping reality. He actually said that when he was the one there based on an anonymous phone call, defying everything in reality, trying to chase after a ghost that doesn't exist, and suggests to me that I need a grip on reality. And the fact that they can terrorize you and tell you it's for your safety. It was profoundly an offensive and traumatic event that the police did. But I will tell you the benefit of it was I got to train the police on how to identify these calls and how to properly react to them, and show them several videos on YouTube of other police departments reacting completely differently than they did. And they officially did change their training protocol. And I had been swatted 3 more times after that event, and they were wonderful. They were amazing. They showed up, they were calm, their guns were in their holsters, they were relaxed, and my deepest gratitude. It was a learning curve for the police department. And what that script kiddie didn't realize is they just made my whole city safer now. Through trying to turn something upside down, they exposed a flaw that's now been fixed. And as a result of that flaw being corrected, no one in my community can ever be hurt by a swatting call, ever, because now the police have training. And it was one of the nicest things that could have happened to my entire community of over 250,000 people. The police department had never been on a swatting call before, even though the officer lied to me and said that he had been. Why the officer lied, I don't understand. When the officer suggested that he had been on a swatting call and was familiar with it, it didn't make any sense why he was handling it so poorly. If he had been honest with me, I would have relaxed a little more, because I'd say, oh, well, he's a first-timer, he doesn't. But he made it out like he did know, and then still behaved bad. So, and then why couldn't he apologize? Why couldn't he say thank you for your cooperation? People say I didn't cooperate with the police. I did everything he asked me to do. I never said they couldn't come in my house. Watch that video. I never said they weren't allowed in my house. I wanted him to clarify what he was about to do. He was about to send an armed invasion into my private home. That was what he was about to do. And he didn't admit that. What he said is, no, I'm not. No, I'm not is what we call a contradiction. It's not an argument. You're not going to go to court and have somebody say, Your Honor, this man right here is guilty. How do you plead? And you just say, no, I'm not. It doesn't work. It's not a valid argument. It's what a 5-year-old, it's what a child does. To have an armed police officer charged with enforcing the law speak like a child when you ask them to define what they're doing and to tell me why they're doing it, and they can't, and they've got a loaded weapon, I have to question that officer's judgment and be very concerned at the fact that they've got a loaded weapon. And again, for the safety of my dogs, I was very, very concerned that they were going to be shot or killed, or that the officers may be significantly injured. As you know, I have a German Shepherd very similar to what the police department uses, and for the same reason. And the officer, just for no reason, just was escalating, uncooperative, unprofessional, just was a bad cop, just a bad cop. And it's sad that all the other officers could not speak up without punishment, because I know that they knew that this whole thing was being handled wrong, and it was not allowed for them to speak up. And that's got to change. It has to change. We've got to put a stop to it. But at least I can sleep well at night knowing nobody can ever do that to me again. The way the police department handled it 3 times after that event was no big deal. It wasn't outrageous police cars and hyperactivity and loaded weapons pointed ready to shoot. It was calm, professional, the way it's supposed to be. And the officers used logic and judgment, which the first officer did not use, and then refused to tell me the truth about something that didn't matter. Have you been on a swatting call before? Yes. Okay, then why are you doing this so badly? It doesn't make any sense. Offer me an apology. Hey, I'm sorry for the interruption. Thanks for your cooperation. I did cooperate. I did everything he asked me to do. Maybe not the way you think But I did, when he said to come to him, I did. Then he said I was walking too fast. Then he said, let's have a talk. We had a talk. You didn't like the tone of the conversation, but we were doing what he asked me to do. He was keeping me distracted away from my house so they could enter my house while he was busy making up reasons for me to stay focused on him and not what was going on behind me. It is a very common tactic used by the police: confrontation, intimidation, and distraction. And I didn't care what was going on behind me. I was very aware that he was pulling me away from the house and intentionally distracting me. It was very obvious, and trying to get me focused on him. And when I asked him very legitimate questions that he was unable to answer, his contradictions then led to him finding somebody else for me to talk to, which was something I appreciated. Speaking with somebody who was better trained in anger management, stress management, and judgment, and not just a machine or a robot. That behavior was shocking to me, given that there's no history or evidence to suggest anything other than that should be expected. So, in any event, we're doing pretty good here on the test. It looks like we've been running now for 27 minutes, almost a full half hour. Now, I could let Prime 95 run overnight. It's fine, but it's just overkill. Like I said, pushing a system this hard for this length of time, the customer's never going to do it. And the maximum temp we've hit is 79.8. We're still below 80 degrees Celsius or centigrade, and that's good. I got no complaints. In fact, I would say, and so let's stop this test. I would say this system's ready to go out the door. I don't see, certainly haven't experienced any lockups or freeze ups like Ron was having the first go around. And I will take his motherboard, his old board, and I'm going to put another processor in it when I have some time, and I will try to emulate what he was doing. It seemed like when he was pushing the system hard, he wasn't having any problems, but when he was browsing the web or watching YouTube videos, the system would intermittently just freeze and lock, completely lock. And that will take some time for me to replicate those kind of problems. Intermittent problems are always the most difficult to resolve. I'll have to do that as time permits, or I might just send the motherboard back to the manufacturer. But if the manufacturer can't replicate the problem, I might just send the board unrepaired right back to me again. We'll see. Ron says, I enjoy running Prime 95 when I get bored. Well, that's a complete waste of time. What sense of accomplishment do you get from that? Yeah, I feel like I need to replay that swatting event and then sort of stop it and tell you about what, narrate it, let you know what's happening because there's no video. I think a lot of it got misinterpreted. And and I want to emphasize I support the police. If somebody threatens me, if somebody were to go missing, a loved one were to go missing, if I were to get robbed, I'm calling the police, right? I'm going to go to them for help. I'm not going to criticize those people that are helping me, but not all cops are good cops. And I'm just trying to emphasize that when I encounter a bad cop, it may perhaps it gets interpreted as being anti-police. That's not anti-police. That's anti-bad police. And there's a lot of bad policemen out there. The city of Glendale, if you Google the city of Glendale, Arizona Police Department, they've had a number of officers fired or under investigation. There's at least a half dozen officers in the last 5 years for abuse. So it's not a big city, and to have that many officers, that tells me it's a systemic problem within the department. But at the same time, 6 is nothing compared to the size of the department. And everybody I spoke to after the event was exactly what you would expect a police officer to be. They were kind, they seemed concerned and genuine and sincere, and they wanted to use it as a teaching opportunity, and they did ask me for help in that. And that's the reason why I didn't pursue legal recourse or attempt to get the ACLU or something involved in and a constitutional violation, or what I believe to be a constitutional violation. But that being said, the vast majority of the police I've dealt with in my life have all been good people doing the job for the right reason. But you do get some that are out of hand. You get some that are delusional with their power and think they have the right to cause you harm over an argument, which is, high school stuff. You know, I don't like what you said, so I'm going to punch you in the face. I don't like what you said, so I'm going to spray you with some pepper spray. That's the kind of person we don't need on the police force. Words are words. Relax. So it's all about relax. Let's not make a big deal out of it. It's fine. There's other things worth making a big deal about, far greater than words, right? And abuse is one of them. And abuse from anybody, especially people in power, but from anybody, it has to stop. Whether we're talking about people in power taking advantage of people not in power, like the Roger Ailes and Harvey Weinstein stuff, or people charged with protecting you, harming you, right? Or even somebody like the person you work for treating you with no respect or of little value. That ultimately is up to you. If you can always quit your job. You don't deserve that. And we should all be a little more considerate towards each other, regardless of our financial, race, gender, age, religion. Each person needs to be judged. There's some real jerks out there. Let's identify them. They come in all races, genders, colors, and ages. I wish it was that easy. To just go, that whole part of the population is bad. It just doesn't work like that. If you want to be judged who you are, then offer the same in return to others. Give me a chance to prove to you I'm a jerk. Don't just assume it. All right. All right. So it looks pretty good. Ron S. says, Carey, I RMA'd my lost it already. I RMA'd my Core i5 8600 to Intel, being sent to Kentucky. The CPU will not boot. How does Intel check CPUs on RMA? Can they tell if the owner abused it? I've never worked at the RMA, and I'm not sure why you think I know the answer to that. That's a question you'd have to ask Intel. I don't know. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. I'm looking forward to finishing up Cougar, what is it called? The Conquer 2. I cannot express to you how much I'm surprised. I'm just shocked. I built that for a joke, and I'm like really excited about it. I'm really thrilled about how simple it is to work on. I like the way it's engineered. And I think for, what is it, $330? Think about this on this case. If you were going to manufacture this case yourself, if you did it yourself, how would you do it? How would you find a manufacturer to get you every single piece custom made, along with the custom screws? Remember, there's several different styles of screws in use here. Source the fan, source the circuit board, have it engineered, designed, and made. assemble it all together. Custom piece of glass, custom piece of glass, custom glass, more glass, plastic, custom metal, custom metal, custom metal, custom plastic, custom metal, custom metal. Every single one of those is a piece that has to be manufactured, powder coated, painted. That's got to at least be $1 million in R&D and tooling a factory. At least $1 million. So when you guys cringe at a $330 case, that had to have cost, I don't know, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it to roll off the factory line. There's so many pieces. And every piece comes off. Nothing seems to be riveted at all on this case. You can take everything off, which is fascinating to me. And you consider how much you're getting for your money. Think of all these different materials. This is painted a different color. This is painted a different color. This is this is like gray, gunmetal gray. This is black. This is red or orange. So you got tempered glass. Now, granted that when the glass is made, it's the same glass on the other side, but you still have two pieces of custom cut glass, another piece of custom cut glass, and as I mentioned, lots of different kinds of screws, the fan, the LEDs, this carbon fiber looking material here, which could be carbon fiber or it just looks like it. And on top of that, it's easy to work on. It's a bit heavy, but of course, you know, pound for dollar or dollar for pound, I think it's a good value. And super easy to work on. Now, I don't know where to put it. Like I said, it's not really small enough for a desk unless there's nothing else on the desk. And putting it on the floor with all these open vents, it's going to attract a lot of dust and dog hair in this house. But I could imagine it in an office, perhaps when you walk into the lobby, to have a machine like this on display and have it hooked up to a monitor that's showing a video or presentation, PowerPoint presentation, slideshow presentation about the company. That would be pretty darn cool. As a showpiece, it's beautiful. As a showpiece, it's easy to work on. A lot of showpieces are difficult to work on. As a showpiece, it's relatively inexpensive and it's unique. It's not something people see every day. So there's a lot of good going for it that I just really like, and I'm very much looking forward. I'll get the power supply shroud on there, and I'll get the graphics card installed, and then we'll run some tests on it. I'm tempted to put a liquid cooler on it just because it looks so easy. I don't want a liquid cooler, but it looks so easy. But I'm really happy with it. Just the hardware that I've selected, it's great. But that's how you can tell I love it, is that I'd be willing to put a liquid cooler, a big 360-degree liquid cooler on it, just because it looks super easy to do. And you've seen me struggle with liquid cooler installs on a lot of different cases, from Fantex to Be Quiet and Corsair, and probably a few in between. That this is nothing, super easy, and it's gorgeous. That to me it is. It reminds me of the robot in the movie Chappie. Did you guys ever see Chappie? Kind of looks like Chappie's head. I think that's Chappie right there. All right. Yeah, this looks really good. So what I'll do, this glass can go back on. I don't know, Ron, what do you think? Do you approve this build? Do you like it, Ron? Is there anything you'd like me to change or alter or improve? Or would you like me to ship it out right away? The case says, Carey, you do not compute. No, the case loves me. We're good friends. That case let me do anything I wanted to it. It didn't fight me. It just trusted me. And it's great. Ron says, thank you, my friend. I appreciate all the time and effort you've put into this project. Well, think of all the videos I got out of it. me see if I've missed anything. If you've been trying to ask a question or get my attention, please try again. We'll give it one more shot here. I can't see everything all the time. We've got 1,133 people watching around the world. I'll do my best. If there's a question that I can answer, I'll do my best. Ron says, Ron Hillier, he's the one in blue in the chat that this system is going to. This one, not this one. I can't afford to send that one to you, Ron. But this one right here. That's Ron Hillier's. He says, I love it. There's one change I'd like to make, and that's its location. Agreed. I'd like to get it out of my house. We're on the same page. The Cougar case with the side of the Cougar case head, that's all assembled. It's all put together. Sides are on. Franklin says, I'd take it, but it's too big for my space. Franklin's build was pretty big. Yeah, this is bigger for sure. Susan says, Carey, money coming in and ready to build a new gaming PC. Will happily pay you for a consultation on what I need to buy. I have built before, but that was over 10 years ago. That's great, Susan. Be glad to talk to you and listen to what your needs are and your budget is, and we can go from there with recommending some parts. Sherry McFarland says, it's been a nice stream tonight. Thank you for doing what you do. Thanks, Sherry. Sherry's made some wonderful thumbnail contributions to the videos, and appreciate that. Michael Dane says, Carey, compare the case sizes. That is where the word mini-me comes from. Compare the case size to which? To compare what case size to what other case size? I'm a little confused. Ron Hillier says, since everyone has been naming the computers, how about calling the Cougar system R2-D2 heavy? Because it's not blue, Ron. R2-D2's got to be blue. This is more like R5-D4. Uncle Owen, this unit's got a bad motivator. Remember R5-D4? Anyway, no, this is Chappie. Look at a picture of Chappie and look at this, especially this part right here. Tell me that that's not Chappie. That's Chappie. Is bigger always better? Of course not. Blackwatch said, I would love it, but you don't ship outside the US. You wouldn't want me to ship outside of the US. I sent a Nuka-Cola case to Tasmania in Australia. It cost $1,400 to ship. There was $425 or $450 in import fees and taxes. So altogether, it was just under $2,000. And thankfully, it arrived in one piece without damage. If it had arrived with damage, what am I going to do? So when you combine the $2,000, $2,300 price of the machine with the $1,900 in shipping, the whole system cost the gentleman about $4,200, $4,300. He had a budget of $5,000, so we were well within his budget, but yeah, it's not worth the risk. There's a lot of potential for damage, and shipping is very expensive. R5-D4 was in The Mandalorian, was he? Says, I thought R2-D2 was white with blue accents. Well, they refer to him as blue. In the movies, they'll say, I'll take the blue one. Right? When R5-D4 blows his motivator, he says, how much for the blue? How about we'll take the blue one? And he's referred to as blue. He's kind of silver. And I don't think he's white, although the toy was white. I don't think he was white, though. Was he? Wasn't he silver? I don't know. The emphasis was on the blue. I guess his dome is silver, and then his body is white and blue. Yeah. Was that US dollars or Australian dollars? That was US dollars. That was US dollars. I don't know what it was in Australian dollars. Nick doesn't think he looks like Chappie. Oh, I think you need to see the movie. You need to see Chappie talk. You need to see these lights, this position here, very much like Chappie. I think I see. Looks like Mitch joined us. Hey, Mitch. Compare the Cougar case and Ron's computer. Oh well, yeah, yeah. That's quite a difference, isn't it? But that's not a mini me. I mean, that's now if this was the same design, this big, then sure. But components are all different. The design is all different, and that's not going to Ron. So that's not Ron's. So how can it be a mini me if it's not him? But yeah, a mini ITX versus a full, what do they call this? CEB? Used to call it extended ATX, EATX now. I think they're calling it CEB. I don't know. Maybe it's two different things. I don't work with motherboards that big, but this will hold it. This won't. But if you want to take your computer somewhere, you can pop the handle up and take this one, or you can get a friend and help you together lift with your knees and get an SUV or a minivan to load that in the back of. That's going to be some exercise. That'll be a workout. Susan wants to know where I got the electronic screwdriver. Everything you see on my channel, from the Lazy Susan, which I put away because of the size of this, my tools, it's all from Amazon. And I have an Amazon link in all my video notes. And if you just visit my channel and hit like the About page, you'll see in the top right corner a little Amazon logo. It says Amazon. If you click on that, that'll take you to my Amazon store. And it'll show you the timers, the tools, a lot of the materials that you see on video I've purchased from Amazon, even my flash drives. And if you make a purchase using my Amazon links, I make a small commission, about the same as a credit card might make. In other words, when you pay for something with a credit card online, it's generally the same price. You don't pay any different, but the credit card company takes, 2 to 4%. It's kind of the same thing with Amazon. If you use my link, regardless of how you pay for it, your price doesn't change. Everything is the same for you, but a small commission is kicked back to support the channel. And if enough people purchase, even little things, it all adds up. There were, I'd say about 2 years ago, I was making more money from Amazon than I was making from YouTube. Imagine in a strong earthquake, the Cougar case would break into pieces. I don't think you understand just how solidly built. I would imagine after an earthquake that the building could collapse on top of this and this will still be standing upright perfectly fine. This in the toilet. 4,300 United States dollars equals 6,000 Australian dollars. Yeah, well, this was about what, 2 years ago? So whatever there's certainly more Australian dollars to the US dollar. Thanos Riddler says, Carey, I ordered my Scythe cooler from Amazon because of you, mate. So good, I can use it as an air conditioner when it's hot. It's a great cooler. Everybody who's purchased them and emailed me about it, even going from all-in-one liquid coolers, they think that the Scythe was far superior in noise, cooling ability, and ease of installation. I've yet to have anybody say it's junk. Nobody who's ever bought one and installed it has written back to me saying it was a bad purchase. Hasn't happened. They've been sold out here in Amazon US for about a month now, but they'll get back. But in the meantime, I think the Pure Rock 2 here is a good alternative. It's a little cheaper. Or if you can get your hands on that Noctua cooler I mentioned, I would say that's probably the best of that style of cooler. It kills me to say that. I really don't want to like Noctua. I really don't want to like them because they're so worshipped by blind sheep. But at least with this cooler and what it costs, and with the exception of that crappy wannabe screwdriver thing that they include that goes right into the trash can, For Noctua, it's a good deal for 70 bucks. God, that doesn't taste good to say that. It's true. John Panarelli's contributed $9.99. Hey, thank you, John. Will your link still work if I use Amazon Smile? I believe it does. Yeah. Nick Poverman must have never seen the movie Chappie. He seems to be going off about the images he's finding online. He can't see it. Watch the movie, Nick. Watch the movie. Then you might see what I'm seeing. Or not. It's like you have the one person in the chat room who's like challenging all the time, but they're not challenging to the point to be offensive. And there's this urge to go, who does this guy think he is? And why does he just keep constantly correcting me? And he just rides this fine line with me where he's super nice and helpful 1 minute, and then he's challenging for no apparent reason and wants to argue over nothing. And I can't help but kind of laugh about it because he's the only one in the chat room that can get away with it. I think that he's riding a very fine line, and he's done it for quite some time. Obviously, I've turned him blue, but I don't have any blue people challenge me as often as he does, and even over the dumbest things. I don't think it looks like Chappie, and I want to make sure everybody knows. Go on and look at it. Who cares? Why did I say it? Why did I say it, Nick? Oh, that's the hill you want to die on? Okay. It's worth fighting over. T.A. Morton Sr. says, I installed the Samsung 860 EVO, 2 terabyte, 2.5-inch SATA drive into my Samsung Series 7 laptop last night. Sweet. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's a great upgrade. Callard in Bowser says, that thing is a Wurlitzer jukebox. I put a quarter in it. It played Elvis. Maybe I could be like the Fonz and just hit it, and the whole thing powers up, like the Millennium Falcon when you're trying to get the hyperdrive to work. No, this is better. This works without hitting it. PC Doctor 2 has contributed 10 bucks. He says, I've been a follower of your channel since 2013, and because of the content you create, I was able to make improvements to my computers. I built one, and I'm planning to build another in the future. Nice. Thanks for the contribution. Thanks for the support. Make sure you're blue in here. We need to see you in the chat more often. We don't have enough kind and supportive people. We never will have enough. Please add to the group. I got to remember to put that link in about the new Intel 10850K to the show notes. That's from PCWorld Magazine. Let's see here. Yeah, I think the folks that are saying it doesn't look like Chappie haven't seen the movie, or you need to rewatch the movie. Even the color scheme is similar. The gunmetal, the black and the orange, or that red. It's in different places, but it's still kind of there. But it doesn't matter. If you don't see it, you don't see it. Especially when he talks. When he talks, it reminds me of this line here, and in the middle of the face reminds me of this part, like the chin. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just my thing. Ron says we're seeing history here. People, Carey likes an RGB system. Well, now wait a minute. What is it that I don't like about RGB? I don't like all the cabling. There's no added cabling here. I'm not. It's a power cable. I added one power cable, which I would do same to the Nuka Cold to light up the NZXT logo is the same power cable. What I don't like about RGB, I don't like the software to control it because it's caused crashes where I had to reinstall Windows. Kept blue screening on a clean install. Come to find out it was ASUS's Aura software that was causing the problem. And it was on live video that I discovered that. All about lights. I had to reinstall Windows 3 times to get a brand new system function for lights, all because of the lights. The added cable management. I don't like liquid coolers where now you've got a USB feed, plus you've got the hoses, you've got the two fans, and then you've got the wire running to the pump. It's too much cabling, and it's too much software. Like I don't want to do the NZXT cam software and then the motherboard software. No. For nothing, for no performance increase, no reliability increase. You see me using the Trident Royal Z RAM, and I like it. It's worked in AMD and Intel systems. You just plug it in, it works. It just so happens to have this really nice diffused RGB. It's not blaring, it's very muted. I've used it a lot. No cables, no additional wiring. You're still plugging the same RAM in. And you've seen me use some RGB coolers, which adds an extra cable. Even adding that one extra cable, I'll sort of grump about. But with this, the RGB is cool. Like the way this breathes and the fact that it's all different. It's not the typical RGB that I've seen on systems, which just reminds me of a Las Vegas neon sign on the strip. This feels very custom, and it feels higher end than just an LED. Whether it is or not, I don't know, but that's how it feels to me. And the inside of it, the only thing RGB is the RAM. I mean, I could go with an RGB power supply, but that's just the dumbest thing. I've installed an RGB power supply in the Silverstone, was it the Lucid case? And, it looks good. And there was no extra cabling, which is what made that acceptable. But, I'm not against reasonable RGB. Let's put it to you that way. It's reasonable. If you're not adding extra cabling, you're not having to add extra software. And by the way, if I plug it into the ARGB header on the motherboard, I can control it with this. I just don't have to. And I'd rather not. But I've never been anti-RGB. I've just been like, if you want me to build a system with RGB and you're going to pay for it, I'll do it. But most people I talk to, the people who actually have the money, tell me they don't want that nonsense. And I don't try to change their mind because it's less work for me if it's less cabling I've got to do. And when somebody does say they want the RGB, like with the Be Quiet repair I just did, the Pure Base 900, the cable management took 2 to 3 times longer on that because of all the added RGB. But it looks good. I mean, even in that case, I thought he did a good job with the RGB. It wasn't like an illuminated lamp, which is what I see a lot of. To me, a gaudy case to me is something very, very bright. You have to squint to look at it. I don't like that. Same is true with audio, by the way. If somebody's got, a friend of mine was showing me his subwoofer and his Dodge Challenger, and it's just muddy. He's like, listen to the bass. It's just, I don't like that at all. It's muddy. I'm like, maybe the music you listen to, that's the sound you're going for, but the music I listen to, I like a nice crisp slap in the face. I don't want to feel any vibration until a drum gets hit. You shouldn't even know there's drums. It should be all treble until that drum or that bass guitar hits, and then it should smack you right in the face. It shouldn't just be all throughout the whole song. That's my personal taste. So someone might say, well, you don't like subwoofers. Oh no, I like subwoofers, but they've got to be tuned to be crisp. If they're not crisp, I'd rather not have it. Same with RGB. It needs to be crisp, not muddy. Too much RGB is muddy. Ron Hillier says the Land Cool 2 demands RGB. You got to make it look good. Think Carnival. So I was sent the Lian Li Cool 2 case by Ryan. Ryan sent that to me, and I'm going to do a build in it. He wants me to review the case. But even that RGB doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's got 2 strips done in the front, which is a pretty common. I installed a case in 1998 that had 2 colored strips on the side, and it had an LED that went through a clear plastic tube that had like bubbles molded into it, and the lights would shine from underneath into the plastic and cycle colors. So it's not new, it's not unique. But again, I haven't done any research on the case. I haven't looked at other videos. So I don't know what entails, how much RGB that case entails. But I'm looking forward to building in it, and I'll probably sell it. I don't think I'll be wanting to keep it based on just the fact that it's got the 2 LED strips on the sides, which is just so common. Not all RGB looks like disco balls. That's my point. It's when they look like disco balls I have a problem. But the beauty of building computers is if you love RGB, you can make it your own. You can design it with anything you want, any color you want, as many lights as you want. I love the individualism of a PC build. When people come on asking for parts advice, it's like, don't you get it? You're supposed to be picking this for you. You shouldn't be asking somebody else to pick it for you. Or you could buy a pre-built, or you could go buy an Apple. They do that for you. So express yourself. Choose a case you like. Choose RGB or no RGB, and how much RGB, and what color, and where. It's a wonderful creative control, and it's very easy. Adding RGB, it does make it a little more time consuming. It adds another level of complexity, but not too difficult. I'm impatient in a way that I like to get as many computers done as quickly as possible and help as many people. And when I'm being held back on something like cable management because of all the RGB cabling, the way to solve that is to hire somebody to do it for me. I can film the build and go, okay, guys, we'll cable management and come back later and go take it to my nephew and go, here, cable manage that and I'll pay you. So I don't want to do it. David R. Officer has contributed $5 Canadian. He says, sorry, I'm late for this video. Well, we've been waiting for you this whole time. We're like, where is David R. Officer? When can we start the video? And then we ended up starting without you. But you can always rewind the video and play it from the beginning later, or you can do that right now too. But thanks for joining us. Thanks for stopping in. And yes, I was being sarcastic. We were not waiting for you, but thanks for showing up. We're glad to see you. And thank you for the contribution and support. Kazison says, today was a bad one. Thank you for making it a better evening. Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. I'm glad I could be a little distraction to whatever is going on in your daily life. We all have days like that. Callard and Bowser says, try a Thermaltake Core P3 open case. Show off all those juicy components. Remember, I'm in the desert. I'm a very dusty home, and I've got dogs that have a lot of dog hair. And an open air case, especially, as I mentioned with this one, my concerns about the dust here is really, really bad. Really bad. In 3 days, this will need to be wiped down. In 3 days, if I don't cover it. And I can't even imagine when it's up and running what sort of particles are going to be attracted to it. So I am a little concerned about that. I pretty much avoided open air cases in Arizona, in Phoenix. And I live across from a farm, which means there's a lot of dust constantly kicked up with the tractors and the farming. I'm in a very dusty, dusty location. Yeah. They have shower centers with RGB. So I don't know what a shower center is, but But I've seen you can buy faucets for the shower or the sink where the cold water shines blue and the hot water shines red. I think that's pretty useful. However, I don't like the idea of combining electricity and water. I'm kind of old school that way. So nothing I would get. I'll let somebody else do that. I had an interesting little experiment with that little Sony Bluetooth speaker. You know, it's waterproof. It's not water resistant, it's waterproof. And I put it into a pool with the music playing because I was showing somebody, look how waterproof it is. And the little rubber flap opened on it and water got in it. And it stopped playing and it died. And I thought, oops, so much for that demonstration. So I didn't have to turn it off, it shut itself off. And I put it in the garage where it's really warm during the day. You know, it's over 100 degrees here. And it'll be over 100 degrees for over 100 days in a row. This every summer in Phoenix. And after about 3 days, I thought I'd try it. It's perfect, no problems. Things like indestructible. I'm very impressed with it. So I'm thinking I might make a video. It's a risky video because there's no guarantee it'll do it again, but I think it will. I think it's low power enough that when the water got in it, it didn't short anything out to damaging of the component, but it shorted it out enough that it wasn't able to maintain the circuit and powered itself off. And then make sure it's bone dry, right? So if I lived in a more humid place, that might be a more difficult thing to accomplish. But here in Arizona, you know, don't leave it out in the sun because it'll melt, but stick it somewhere where it's hot, like the garage, and it's shaded. Let it get that heat for a good 2-3 days. And honestly, it probably doesn't need more than a day in this heat. But just to be sure, take it back out, turn it back on, works like brand new. That was eye-opening. And that's quality. The other thing I don't like cases that have a bunch of fans in them. Like a lot of times the way they add RGB is by adding fans that have RGB. There's a company called Azza, A-Z-Z-A, and you can Google AZZA case, and you'll see like they have a cube case, and it's got like 6 RGB fans in it. It's a square cube, and it sits on its side with a special metal stand, so it sits like a diamond instead of like a cube. And all they did to make it special was they added RGB fans. And then they've got one that looks like a triangle. It's all glass with a single RGB fan at the top. I mean, if you're looking for different, Azza makes some different cases. Cougar also makes some different cases. And Inwin, if you want to see some pricey cases, Inwin has a round glass orb that rotates around. It's $3,500 for that case. Uh, so yeah, I think 330 is a pretty good deal. Any guesses if the new AMD X670 motherboards will have PCIe 5.0? I've not read anything from any of the like PCWorld or Maximum PC or Tom's Hardware that suggests that's to be the case, but I don't know. Not they don't ask me for my opinion. They just do what they're going to do according to their business plan. So speculation rarely helps pay my bills. I don't really spend much time thinking about it, to be honest. I don't care. I just don't care. If they come out with it, they come out with it. If they don't, they don't. I don't care. John Doe says, I don't even like dash lights in my car. It's not the price of the case that concerns me, it's the cost of the shipping. Yeah, this was $330, but it's like $105 to get it shipped. It wasn't, even though it was from Amazon, it wasn't Amazon Prime. Then there's the Antec Torque case. And when I get this one done, I'll bring the Torque up and we'll do something with that. So it's kind of like this without all the RGB. It's more, looks like a crotch rocket motorcycle design. Kind of cool, different, sporty, looks fast, even though it's not moving. And hopefully it's as easy to work on as this was. All right, where are we at? We're going to be right at 3 hours. That seems like a good time to stop the video. So thank you guys for the support and the kind words. I really appreciate it. David, our officer, PC Doctor 2, John Panarelli, Madi Yoel, Johnny Jacquin, Tony Cheek, Dr. Michael Ferguson, Leon Goosens, Tom Jackson, Kenton Morton, Nunman 1962, Terry Lee, Keith Gray, James Prezi, Michael Dane, John Panarelli, Madi Yoel again, Chris Dobson, John Dorrington, The Church of Logic, Niles Van de Sand, Chris Keegan, Stylus Sofo, Richard Angeline, Bearpaw, Farrell Sparky, Glenn's Music, and the first contribution today from Niles Van de Sand. So thanks you guys again for your kindness and support and helping to keep me an unfiltered voice from corporate America. I appreciate that I don't have to sell you so I can earn a check to make these videos. And I appreciate that I don't have to have my videos double checked by a corporation for approval. And I can do them live, off the hip, off the seat of my pants, and let it be what it's going to be. And I don't have to edit, and I don't have to please anybody. It's just I'm allowed to do my job and to film it, to share with you some of my philosophies, some of my technique that I learned the hard way on how I diagnose and repair that doesn't rely on motherboard beep codes or diagnostic cards or motherboard manuals most of the time, but on experience, intuition, and logic. The power of deduction, as Sherlock Holmes would say. And it's really quite simple. It's really quite simple. And I'm happy to show it. I enjoy doing it. I want to see Dave Stetzel there in the chat. Hey, Dave, good to see you. Thank you for the kind words. In stealth mode, thank you. Ghost Shadow, Chevy Arthur, Aorus Team Jeffrey, Daniel Schroeder, Tony Wallow, good friend of the channel, Evidence Savant, and Tristan G, Sharon Idle, and Sherry McFarland. Thanks you guys so much. Susan Harris, and of course to Case Eisen. Thank you. Ron Hillier, that guy. Vern Mahorny. William Dawson. John Doe. Franklin Adams. Thanos Riddler. Matt Power. Jeff Jankowitz. Thanks, all you guys. All of you. More than I can name. I appreciate it. That's going to wrap it up for me for tonight. Let's see if I can get this thing boxed up and shipped out tomorrow via FedEx. Ron, maybe you'll get it by Friday, hopefully. And then I will let you do the testing. And if it doesn't work, you'll just send it back, and we'll do this as many times as it takes until we get it right. Meaning I take it apart, put an Intel system out. I think it's fine. That's going to wrap it up for me for tonight. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.